Hello out there, and welcome to It's Your Thing, the show that talks to people about what they do and why they do it. I'm Lisa Alex, and today I'm talking with makeup artist, visual artist, performer, and activist, Danny Ferron. Welcome, Danny.
Thank you, Lisa. Thanks for having me on.
Absolutely. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to talk to you. There is so much that you do. There is so much that you know. I also forgot to mention in your introduction that you are the narrator of the documentary, My Life, My Story, My Tourettes.
Correct.
How about we start with you talking about how this film came to be?
Okay. Roughly 10 years ago, I was living in New Jersey, working retail, pursuing a career in film and television, which I still do. And I had an idea about using my Tourette's in a positive way to get not just my story out and again, like you said, all the things that I do, but to educate people on Tourette's, and because it's still kind of low on the food chain and misunderstood. And we ended up meeting an amazing amount of people. And I say we, my business partner and great friend Peter Junta from New Jersey, who's absolutely wonderful. He filmed it, directed it, produced it, edited it, did everything.
He did an amazing job, I have to say.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
Go ahead.
So did the final product. We had a couple different screenings locally at Pocono Community Theater. We did one in Connecticut. We did one in New Jersey. And again, just trying to get the word out. So it took, I think, over almost 3 years, along with our own personal lives. We did this documentary and met an amazing amount of people. Just one door would open and others would blow open. And it was just, everybody was willing to help. Some people with Tourette's, some people without, siblings, my own included. So we covered a lot of ground that other documentaries for Tourette's don't cover, in the history of it, and not just the positive aspects of it, but the not so positive, which of course is raw.
Right. So as you say, it's misunderstood. So let's clarify for the audience.
Okay.
You have Tourettes Syndrome.
I do.
How old were you when your family discovered you had it?
Between 5 and 6. So you're talking 1975, 1976, which nobody knew anything about it, or very little back then. So it was people are more educated now, of course, even if they don't know much about it, they know of it. But back then, it was just people didn't know what it was. And the gentleman that ended up being my doctor, who officially declared me to have Tourette's, was Dr. Arthur Shapiro. And he was he and his wife were both neurologists, psychiatrists, psychologists, with every kind of degree, and had already written a book the size of a phone book, but still was learning himself. But he was the only one, and we got him out of Mount Sinai in New York. We got him as my doctor, which was a great relief to know we were in the right hands. And I was a guinea pig for meds.
Really?
From 6 to 12. Oh, yeah. And nothing worked.
Okay, so we've got a lot going on here. First, tell me, if you know, what was it? Did your family ever talk to you about what it was what were the red flags? What made her think, okay, something needs attention? He needs...
Mother's intuition.
Right.
Just, everybody's Tourette's are different, but there's still the classic symptoms that almost everybody starts out with: eye blinking, arm and neck jerking, things that just don't look normal. And you're saying, why are you doing that? And the child would say, I don't know. They can't saying, why are you breathing? So again, we didn't have the social media we have today, of course. And my grandmother, my mom's mom, was reading, I think, Family Circle or Women's Day. And the article in the newspaper, in the magazine, was that of Dr. Arthur Shapiro about Tourette's, and said, oh, I think this is what Danny has. And Mom saw it, and thank God. And again, you couldn't look on the computer, you couldn't Google up the information.
Everything took forever.
Everything took forever. You opened the phone book and you looked, and she got a hold of him. And
he agreed to see you.
He was just ready to go. They were ready to go on vacation.
Okay.
And she was at her wit's end because just, again, this magazine article appeared and at the right time, so he probably postponed it for a day or something, and yes, had us come in, my father and my mother and I, to officially,
How old were you at that point?
6.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so closer to 6. And what he would do, I guess, in his office is left me sitting in the waiting room, and then would talk to my mom and dad, and he could look at me through a camera or a window, observe without me realizing it, and right away said, yeah, he has Tourette's.
Okay.
So that was a huge weight off everybody's shoulders to say, okay, this is what we have. Let's, how do we deal with it? So.
And he started a course of medication therapy.
Mm-hmm.
And what do you recall what that was like?
It's interesting. As a kid, I mean, as bad as my tics were, I think I liked not the attention, but the excitement. It was like I was learning myself, even though I didn't realize at the time. Being educated from this man, and it probably got me out of school a couple times, which was not to go to the city and but they would do EKGs and EEGs and blood work and blood tests and stuff like that. It was here. He would prescribe a certain amount of pills. I don't remember 3/4 of them, but Ritalin, Haldol, a lot of these things, and titrate them up.
Really?
Yeah. One made me blow up like a balloon. One made me depressed. One made me hyper where I couldn't sleep. Complete opposites. Everything but it exacerbated the Tourette's. Plus, I'm a kid, and you're growing.
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking.
Really just a bad combination. Who knew? And it was not till about 12 or 13, as I got into puberty, and my mother said, let's take him off everything. What's the worst that can happen? And she did, and I haven't been on meds since, and I'm 47.
Now, this is what astounds me. I don't even know what to say, and I need to say something. But when I read that, when I heard that, when I came to that part in your film, I am very, and anyone who knows me knows that I'm very anti-prescription meds, but of course there are circumstances. Don't get me wrong, but we absolutely overprescribe in this country.
Oh yeah.
And for your mom to have the courage and continue to pay attention to the syndrome and to you beyond that, and to be there and fulfill your needs is just a testament. I mean, yes, a mother would do anything, but
right, yeah.
That's a lot. And I know she had other children.
She had my 2 older sisters, and we again interview one of the 2 who kind of represented, the siblings that don't understand why the younger brother's getting all this attention. It's frustrating, for them to get kind of neglected in the scheme of things.
Did you feel different growing up in school? Or did you feel different?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. You feel
How?
Well, I physically the 3 of us went to Catholic school, to a grade school and a Catholic school in New Jersey. So I believe I think I started, it might have been 3rd grade, 2nd or 3rd grade. And my tics were really bad at the time. And the woman who was the principal, and she was a Franciscan nun, who became very good friends with our family, like family, for many years later. And she, prior to us coming into my sisters and I coming into this school as new students, she went around to every class and she explained.
Brilliant.
Oh, what the best she could. There's a gentleman, young boy coming in with, makes these sounds, and the examples always to say to somebody, try not to blink, try not to breathe, or cough, because you just naturally do it. So people can't, if you can try to hold your breath,
Right.
you can't do it.
Right.
That's what it's like having a tic. It becomes part of you. So it was wonderful, and it blows my mind, and that was back in 1979, 1980. That today it's there's not more of that today. I know there's rights, and I just think it nipped it in the bud and cleared a thing. That way nobody can say they didn't know.
Right.
And nobody bothered me. It was respectful.
And that was, we didn't have a lot of inclusion then, and inclusion classes. And now we do, and there's more awareness of a lot of other things. And so bless that nun.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
She used to come, because you could, hear me down the hall, and she'd come take me out of class, and we'd go have Diet Coke and English muffins in the convent and hang out. After a while, my mother said, "You got to stop doing that." She's like, "I'm sorry, I can't help myself."
Nothing like a Diet Coke in the convent. Let me tell
telling you, good memories, yeah.
So, all right, again, to be clear, because tell us what Tourette's is.
Okay.
Where in the brain does it occur?
So it's neurological, and that's another thing. Is Dr. Shapiro is the official doctor, the official human being who declared and found out that right around the time, roughly in the mid-70s, that it was considered neurological, not psychological, because if you were prior to that, it was, this person's just strange, we're gonna put them away. So I couldn't have come in at the better time. I know. And I've met people who have been, put away, and I can't even imagine, just for because they didn't know. So neurological, as there are so many labels and things today of neurology versus just, he or she is crazy kind of thing, and then let's just throw let's just put them somewhere and lock the key, throw the key away. So that gives the patients, the proper rights to say, well, it's neurological. Again, that's what makes us think and makes us see and hear, and it's the brain. It's a complicated thing. So there's different, again, my film explains better. There's different, we break down the aspects of the brain. What makes
fabulous.
Yeah, thank you. What makes what do this and this, and that loose wiring, as I call it, that just simply makes me do.
I learned so much about it, and I had known a little bit about it because when we first met, I had told you that years ago, I actually performed in a musical about Tourette's Syndrome.
Yes.
I educated myself on it, but had no idea. The basal ganglia and the frontal lobe and
the cortex.
Yeah.
Very deep, very interesting.
Thank goodness.
So exactly. And it's again at 47 years old. It's funny because I think I'll always marvel anywhere I go, being out and about in public, and I consider myself now, of course, I've always considered myself blessed, but being it's so moderate compared to what I went through, I look at other people with their problems and I said, I'm good. Like at once upon a time, it was when it was bad, it was bad. But there's too many people are focused on themselves, as well they should be, and their own problems, to have to worry about what I'm doing. Or they have their own, problems. Everything's a label today. There is, again, they have what they call the spectrum, which is like a triangular concept of neurological disorders, Tourette's, Asperger's, autism, ADHD, all that kind of, So it's so much. There's more education now than ever. It continues to be. So that's wonderful.
So I want to talk about what it is not, because there was a startling part of the film where I believe it's your sister's friend has a child.
Yes.
And the child was diagnosed with Tourette's, and the school administrator calls the family and said, tell me if I got this right, was your child exposed to Satan
and or any kind of witchcraft? And she said,
this is an educator. This is who we leave our children with, people like that. Go ahead.
Yeah, I know. Don't get me started. This is friend of my middle sister's who was in school with us. So she witnessed me as a kid, having the Tourette's at their worst. And so she just, again, she talks about, she says, I can't believe this day and age versus what Sister Renee did for me back in the day, which was go around. She was shocked. She went in to talk about it, and he blew her away with that, and she's thinking, are you kidding? How can you possibly even think that? Yeah, I know it leaves you speechless. You're like, you can't believe it. And by the way, her son is doing wonderful now.
Thank God.
He's I think he's almost ready to graduate high school. There's just that one, not just that one, but the and it's predominantly boys. It's in girls as well. So, but it's predominantly gene-wise boys that have Tourette's. So from that age of 9 or 10 through into the teen years, it's such a hard time anyway because the bodies are changing, everything's growing. So I feel like that's like 9, 10, and 11 is the worst time to have it. It seems to rear its ugly head the most. And I've spoken to, including her, so many people I've met through since the film that mothers and fathers I've spoken to who, and they talk about their kids' age, and I'm like, oh yeah, it just seems to be that's like the worst time of it. And it never really goes away, but again, like myself, it will subside where you just, as you get older and your brain grows and your body's growing and life, is still stressful, but it just works itself out. It just kind of becomes part of you for the most part.
So there are stressors. There are things that'll bring on the symptoms.
Stress is the worst. Stress is no good for anybody, obviously.
Right.
So, but I consider, for me, I'm very hypersensitive. I'm an empath as well, but I think, again, we're just more prone to, because, I don't know, maybe as a kid, because you're doing something, you don't quite understand what you're doing, but you're being stared at, you're being, whatever, you could, mocked or looked at, so you feel like an outcast. And that's not good for the self-esteem. So with me, again, everybody's different. My mother always said, she said, Danny was born smiling. She said, I always seem to outshine the Tourette's. It was, she talked about, we'd go to see Dr. Shapiro, and what he would have me do is unbutton my shirt and then button it back up to see how long it took me, because my arms were flaring. And he'd say, if it takes you 10 minutes, it takes you 10 minutes. Where are you going? But much like when somebody has a toothache, they go to the dentist and then it's gone. I'd go, and it was like, what happened to the Tourette's?
Wow.
But my mother would say, I'd remember that maybe his wife had a cold last month or something. How's your wife doing? I'm 9 years old. He goes, this kid's got all the problems in the world. He's worrying about my wife. But that's how I am. That's my gift. That's how,
it's your soul.
That's my soul.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always been, for me, the way it is. I've been very outspoken. And it was never, hi, I want to talk about, the 5,000-pound elephant in the room. Let's talk about you. Let's talk about something else.
Yeah.
And people see that, and they don't challenge it. They go, okay, we don't want to draw any more attention to it than it needs. That's just naturally how I've been.
So what would you say to a 9, 10, 11-year-old child in school now with Tourette's?
So
what's your advice to them?
I've been very fortunate, because if I just back up for a second, since the film, so here in Pennsylvania, the Tourette chapter they're located in Gettysburg, Pennsylvania. It's the PATSA, the Pennsylvania Tourettes Syndrome Alliance, and the women that run it are unbelievable. They're amazing, and it's a small knit group of women, but they represent the entire state of Pennsylvania. For anybody that needs help, and they go out and they do, they kind of advocate for the families, to go to the schools and say, well, let's work on an IEP and all these little different.
Tell them what an IEP is.
I didn't have these as a kid, so
right.
It was, basically it's a plan. It's a plan that protects the rights of the child, where if they're in the classroom and they need to take a walk, to take a break or something, that they're able to that's already all explained before that. The teacher knows if the child needs to get up because they're stressed or something and take a walk down the hall, that they can just go ahead and do that. They're not just doing it for
right.
For
so
no reason.
Upon evaluation and knowing what that, the individual needs of that child.
The individual needs, exactly. Right,
okay.
right. So, which is wonderful, which again, I didn't really need it when I was a kid, but it's definitely much needed today. So again, it's a lot of just red tape and paperwork, but it's proper to protect the child and protect the family from things that otherwise the teacher might say, well, be quiet, and we don't to have the teacher not be educated, they shouldn't be talking to the child like that anyway, but it happens. So the women at PATSA, have been wonderful. So I volunteer now. We filmed part of the film at the they do a camp every year, and I go back every year and volunteer. So I'm friends with a lot of families. I meet new people every year with kids that age. So I tell them, I say, you're going to be fine. That's what I tell them. I said, trust me. I'm your future. I'm like you. You know, I was your age at one time without technology and without the internet and I'm fine. I shine past my Tourette's. So for those because there's so much more education, you know, it's still hard, but they're going to be fine. Like probably close to 99% of everybody is fine. And there's the rare occasions, and I mean rare, where it does the other opposite and it gets worse as they get older. Mm-hmm. I don't know what these numbers are, but it's very rare. I do know one of 3 people in the entire world, who's Andrew, the gentleman in my film, who had the deep brain stimulation surgery. Yes. He was from England originally. Mm-hmm. And he's doing wonderful. And his tics were, were severe. And he comes to the camp with his wife. And it's just, it's a great, tight-knit, little community where everybody can just go and be themselves without the stares of, the curiosity of the public. And generally, you take that attention off, and they don't even usually tic.
What's the name of that camp?
It is, so it's PATSA. It's
they can contact PATSA.
They can contact, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. If you just look up PATSA, again, the Pennsylvania Tourettes Syndrome Alliance, and you'll have a boatload of things that will come up, information, websites, phone numbers, and they can contact Sarah Wolf.
Okay.
Sherry Sponsiller, and I'm not sure who else is there right now. But yeah, so they're wonderful. And again, they come out and they advocate for the families and the kids and the schools, and they do the camps and do amazing things. So.
Now, am I correct in that Pennsylvania and New Jersey are the only states that receive state funding?
Can you believe it?
For the syndrome? Mm-hmm. And New York? Okay,
I
great.
believe so. That's where it was started. Actually, Dr. Shapiro was one of the founders of the Tourette's Syndrome Association. Yeah, which blows my mind that there's not other places, in our own country that have that support, and it's just like, wow. So, there's a lot of work to do. I feel like it's a mission. There's a lot of educating to constant.
All right. Well, speaking of missions now, I wish they could see this. Okay, say what it is.
Flat Danny.
Flat Danny. Everybody knows Flat Stanley, right? This is Flat Danny. And what does Flat Danny do for us?
Okay, so Flat Stanley was a children's book, and a couple years ago, and I think in the story the boy gets flattened by something. A picture falls off the wall, and I can float around, I can go into the door, and that kind of thing, and mail myself to people. So I think that there was a teacher who started the Flat Stanley project, and he'd have the kids draw their version of Flat Stanley, which is a typical little boy, and mail him. And it became this big epidemic where people would write. They could send it to the president. They could send it to China, and people would photograph. And this was even the beginning of social media, and post their picture. Here I am, at the Grand Canyon with Flat Stanley, or here I am in China, and it would just kind of be something fun. So, in the same respect, I did Flat Danny for Tourette's and bullying, to raise the awareness for it and have it go anywhere in the world. People can print out, and people have Facebook all over the place. So I'm in the process, that's a work in progress, of trying to get people, and it is downloadable, and you can, with a letter explaining, so I want to be able to have kids who with and or without Tourette's have this as kind of a tool, a fun tool to say, this is my friend Flat Danny. He has Tourette's. I have Tourette's. I think it breaks the ice on a conversation piece. Mm-hmm.
And it'll lead somebody to a website where we can all get educated, or on what it is, what to do with the resources, or.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So again, the great thing is it all ties in. You Google Tourette's, and more specifically the name of my film, or Flat Danny. I have a Facebook page for him. So I'm looking to get it under to get going fully, and it takes a while to get the word out and stuff. So, but it's a constant work in progress, which is wonderful. It's like if everything was completed, then I'd have nothing to do.
That's right. Well, but you certainly do have a lot to do. So, starting with, when did you move to Pennsylvania?
Okay, I moved from New Jersey. Originally moved 22 years ago with my mom and my middle sister, and then I moved back to New Jersey, and this was mid-90s, maybe 95, 96, to pursue my career and live in the proximity of northern New Jersey, where I grew up, to be close to New York, so I could go. And I was going to go to California, and I had too much. I was too down to earth to realize I'm not going to just fly there and hope for the best. I mean, I didn't, I always have.
This is in pursuit of an acting career.
Okay. Film and television. Yeah. So this is all pre 9/11. So things were fine. And at about 25 or 26, I got myself an apartment. I started working a full-time job in retail, and then pursuing film and television. So I lived 25 minutes outside New York City, and did that, auditions and sent headshots out, and just started doing that. And got, did a lot of extra work. Joined a union at the time called AFTRA, which was the American Federation for Television and Radio Artists, as you know. And I worked a couple times. I was an extra. I was a janitor in the hospital, all my children.
All right.
So I got to meet Lee Merriweather, which was fun. So it was wonderful. You got to be in it to win it. And so I did that for many years, always while working a job and paying the bills, because that's the reality of it. And then about 7 or 8 years ago, we'll say about 7 years ago, I moved back up here for two reasons. Number one, and the stress of living in New Jersey had made my tics so much worse. It was really bad. It was just intense. More than when I was a kid, because it's a melting pot and so many people, and just every day it seemed like there was just that area of New Jersey was just so, people were just nasty and ugly, and it was not the same as when I was a kid. I said, I have to get out of here. So I moved back up here and had a place of my own for a while, and commuted for a while back to Jersey. But then I moved back in with my mom, and her health was not the best, so it worked itself out. I moved in, tended to the house to help her around the house, again while working, and then her health was not the best, so slowly declined. I lost my mom. October 28th was a year ago, but I took care of her. I dedicated my life to. I put everything on the back burner to do that, and with no regrets. I'm glad I did. And and mom has always been my rock, and she's been my angel. And still is. It still is from the other side. I mean, the amazing things.
And will always be.
Always. It's just truly amazing that the amazing things that have happened in the year, plus that she's gone for me. There's no question that, along with God first and foremost, that she's got a hand in a lot of what I'm doing now and where I'm heading with my life.
So you're in Pennsylvania. When you come back to Pennsylvania, you're looking for a job, and what happens?
So I worked, I commuted for a while back to, like I said, back and forth New Jersey. I worked at the Shawnee Inn and Golf Resort.
Okay.
I worked there for off and on for 6 years. I worked the front gate, so when people would come in, I would greet them. And if they had reservations, I'd call up to the front desk. And they were wonderful. I enjoyed the job. And again, when Mom's health declined, I'd work when I could. If I needed to get up and leave because she fell or had to take her to the hospital, they were fine. That was a blessing to have that nice little situation there.
Sure.
So that was wonderful, and then left there a while ago, over a year ago, a couple months before Mom passed. It was like I said, I didn't know when she was going to go, but I said it's getting closer than not, and I want to spend as much time with her as I can, because I'd be at work saying, is she home? Is she falling? It was not. I was there physically, but mentally I was not. So it was very, very stressful with my Tourette's. But I said she took care of me, and I do have a choice. Some people might say you don't have a choice, but and I chose the right path. I chose the right thing to do. And what I wanted to do, not that I had to, I did it because I wanted to. And my mom and I had a very special bond. And again, especially with her being the advocate, my first advocate, when at a time when nobody knew what was going on, and she fought with the school systems and the board of education through the year, all the things I didn't really know about as a kid, that she went to bat for me. And again, all before the internet. Just look at the phone book and the phone on the wall.
You don't mess with mama.
Don't mess with mama.
Don't mess with mama. Now, Oasis, there was an oasis for you here, and that was a place called Rosettas.
Yes.
And this, I think, tell me if I'm right, put you on another course.
It did. So when I originally moved up here with my mom and my sister, I was up here for about 2 years before I decided to move out. And I remember going around looking for, checking the area out, because we were living in East Stroudsburg in Marshall's Creek. And I saw the front of Rosettas, the Bill's store. And I said, I don't care. I don't know who this person is. I have to work there, because I was into...
Tell them what Rosettas is.
Rosettas Fantasy Corner is a costume shop. Bill Rosetta, who is now a great friend of mine for about 22 years, and he's the owner and operator of the store. His father was the legendary Frank Rosetta, who was an amazing artist for different venues through the years. And so I clicked right away with Bill. We just clicked on. We were on the same level of creativity, and we just bonded through. And we still have remained really good friends. Bill is in the film. He was willing to be interviewed, and we just have a great time. I always like that. Bill, enjoys his business and working and for the people and creating things, and I'm the same way. I like to entertain people. I feel like if there's a period of time where I can't be funny or do something silly, I feel like I can't breathe. So it's natural. I love it. You know how it works.
I know how it works.
Yeah.
So this is how you, is that where you learned how to do special effects makeup and special effects?
Yeah, pretty much, yeah. So working there and being introduced to, I was just kind of getting into the concept of makeup as a backup for film, because they're both one's associated with the other. So I said, if I needed to be a makeup artist on a movie, if the film career didn't work out, I'd be fine with that, because I'm still, more so, I'm creating characters and makeups for film and TV. So I said I'd be content with that. And it's always good to wear, many hats. Excuse me. So, again, working there and having material to be able to use and try on different costumes. And Bill has a book of costume rentals, so sometimes we'd have a little photo shoot and just take a couple hours on a Sunday or something and dress up and in makeup and costumes to show people the pictures and how it would look on them if they rented.
Did you formally train in makeup? Did you study makeup, or you learned that all on your own?
I'm self-taught.
So I have to tell everybody, I'm walking down the street a couple of weeks ago. You came to meet me to give me a copy of the film.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And there's Danny with a blue face and ice cubes hanging and icicles hanging from his eyelashes and eyebrows and hair and purple lips, and he's got the last scene in the Titanic.
the
makeup going
frozen
on.
Look, yeah.
Frozen Atlantic Ocean look.
Yeah.
Fabulous. It was amazing.
And it was still warm out.
You are. I know.
You were know. What are you? Yeah.
Are you okay?
Yeah. So
I was a little chilly.
I was going to an art show, and the theme was cold. It was the cold show at an art gallery in Strasbourg. So yeah, I love it. I love to create. I like to alter even my own face and to have some people say that's not you, and to be able to create the illusion that it's somebody else. I love it. Yeah.
Well, speaking of that art show, last week I was at the gallery on 7th Street for Pocono Arts Council, and there is this beautiful artwork, and I asked about it, and the curator there said, "Oh, that's Danny Ferron's work," and it's flying out the door. Did you know that, Danny?
I did.
Okay.
Thank you.
So I saw some collage. I saw. Tell me.
So I primarily my main medium is something called steampunk, which is it's a strange collection of a variety of things. I think the original idea was visually the Victorian era of men in suits with pocket watches and the handlebar mustaches and the top hats, and in like over in London,
Right.
that kind of Victorian era, looking into the future at like pre-Wright brothers, like flying, things that never came to be,
For them.
that they would try to have, like a bicycle that flew or that would go very fast, and the mechanics of it, with lots of gears, like old clock gears and watch parts and skeleton keys. And so it's just kind of a collective amount of old versus old meets new, in a futuristic looking type, style, whether it's clothing. I do a lot on canvas, and cigar boxes. I'll do.
I love the cigar boxes. Fabulous gifts, by the way.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Dioramas and just little scenes with, little things, whether they're old or I create them to look old. I can paint them to look rusted. It's just it's wild for a great imagination, which I have, and it's almost obsessive, but it's just wonderful. So, when you're out, like anything else, you become a little bit of an expert on things, so you can go out and know what to look for, and look for inexpensively. You go to little thrift shops, and I mean, I do buy some things from the art craft store that are steampunk related, but to try to get things at antique stores that are not too expensive, that are old, actually old, is even better, because it has that feel for it. So so I use those, and whether it's dried flowers or moss and all kinds of things from the craft store, and just make things unique and different. I make top hats that are 2 floors with just, again, very strange and unique. But I love the creativity part of it. So and that relaxes me. Also, most people with Tourette's are either in some form in the entertainment business. They do creative things. So every time I meet somebody else and my kid does this, and I said, I know. I said, it's something we do. We entertain, we sing, we dance, we act, we perform, we do poetry, we do art. And and while doing it relaxes us, and you'd never know we had Tourette's. Mm-hmm. It's strange, but it's that creativity. That's the gift. Well, they have this.
Yeah, it reminds me almost of people with severe stutters that sing, and there's not a stutter.
Know. Same concept. Mm-hmm. It's the part of the brain that, for whatever it is, mm-hmm. again, we can't figure out the brain. Mel Tillis, who I think just died recently, perfect example of that. Yeah, same kind of thing. There's a switch that goes off or on that allows that person to shine and be, quote, normal for 5-10 minutes or whatever it is. Yeah.
So what's on the horizon now, performing wise?
So I do this time of year. I do Santa Claus for some daycares. I just, as you know, did. I have my own Victorian Santa Claus costume that I'm created, which I was able to show off at the Castle Inn here in Delaware Water Gap this past weekend, and so I do that, and we do have our art shows. Again, my table is up at Origins Art Gallery, the Pocono Arts Council in Stroudsburg, till I think the 5th of January. So it's been up from Black Friday.
Do you have a website where they could see your art?
I do have a Facebook, Danny Steampunk Collection. It's a Facebook page.
Wait, let's say that again. Danny's I'll go say
that's okay. Danny's Steampunk Collection, mm-hmm. and that is, if you look that up on Facebook, mm-hmm. you can check out my pictures there. And I think I have a little bit of the history about myself and what I do on there, and I'll take pictures and post things. All my artwork at any time is always for sale. I mean, I make it with intentions to sell, but I enjoy it at home at the same time. So right now I brought up a good chunk of the collection to sell, at the gallery. And then I have my regular, Daniel Ferron Facebook, and I have a Flat Danny Facebook. So, basically the Flat Danny thing I really want to take off, where if people, school teachers, anybody really, I'd really like to get it involved in the school systems in the area for the younger kids, because if there's one kid, if there's one boy or girl in a school, in a whole school, and they're the only ones with Tourette's, and the school, if they get the permission and the okay from the parents, and the kid is okay, it's terrifying, but it's easier in the beginning of the year, just like my principal did, to kind of say, hey, this young man or this young lady has this disorder, but they're like everybody else. Make them feel welcome. Don't judge them. Don't stare at them. Don't make fun of them, and that the butterflies will go away, and you'll have friends, and you'll be accepted. Everybody's different. That the child and the parents would have to agree to do that. It sounds traumatizing, but I think I feel like it should be done more now than ever, because it will make the school year less stressful, because then the kid doesn't want to go to school, and then they go through hell. They get made fun of and they get bullied. And,
right.
Oh my God.
I mean, this raises awareness for so many other issues, which I love. I mean, like you said, it brings up the bullying problems. There's other issues of that children have, just so many other things that they come to school with, come into the world with, that we need to include them. And I worked with very small children, and I found that younger children, smaller children, are very accepting of children with differences.
Absolutely.
And want to help them. And then it becomes, they're just, they're just part of they're one of us.
Yeah, educate
but
them
the
when you're
older
young.
ones, of course, like you said before, a hard age for any kid, adolescence, 9, 10, 11, 12, things start happening, and for some reason they lash out. They're mean, they're angry sometimes, and not accepting of people with differences.
So I think it's better, like anything else, to teach children while they're young and still innocent and willing to help. And kids are always smart, but kids today seem smarter than ever, because they come out with phones, attached to their ear. I know it's ridiculous, but they're not stupid. And if within reason, if you talk to a 5 or 6 year old and you explain, because they want to be included, and almost in an adult way, if you say, okay, this child, this boy has something, they can't help it, and sometimes that's just good enough, and they'll say, okay, opposed to looking at you and going, why? Right. So if you lie to them, or you stretch the truth, then it's like they know you're not telling the truth.
You can't
fool a kid. No. So but again, it's a work in progress. But also there's a Facebook and a website for my film, my documentary.
Yeah, this is super important. Tell everybody where they can find this film, because everyone needs to see this.
Thank you. So the wonderful thing is now, because we have them on DVD for sale, but you can now download this for free on YouTube, officially, as of just about a month ago.
Really?
So Peter, my business partner, made it, official. Because, we were selling some, but it's, he said, it's just, at this point, we just want to get the word out. It's not about becoming rich overnight, obviously. It's about getting the word out. And like anything else, you download things. So it's my life, my story, my Tourette's, and you can download it for free. It's about I think it's about an hour and 45 minutes. Mm-hmm. You can watch it on you, and pause it, obviously, if you doing other things. But it's wonderful, and the larger the screen, the better, obviously, to get the full visual. So if you can hook up your computer to a TV, as some people can, and watch it and educate. Yeah,
I'll tell you. But to see it, whatever you need to see it on, if you need to watch this on your phone, everybody needs to watch this.
Thank you. Yeah.
So on YouTube, they're going to put in "My Life, My Story, My Tourette's." It's TOURETTES. Mm-hmm. Please see Danny Ferron's film, hear his story. It's going to make a difference in your life, and pass it on.
Thank you. And everybody can reach out to me on any of the social media. Like I said, on on any, leave messages, friend me on Facebook, say I saw your film. I want to encourage people to do that. And, whether they have a child with Tourette's or they know somebody with Tourette's or they don't, and ask me questions. What I'd love to do is be able to go around to schools or anywhere, colleges, and educate students, educate
It's going to
people.
happen.
Thank you. Yeah,
It's gonna
it is.
happen.
It's slowly, but it will, and be able to do that and make a living out of that. I would love that. I'd love that, and it would be a work in progress, but we would be getting the word out, right from me, right from the source. So.
Okay, so let's start now. We're getting the word out. Everybody, go on his Facebook page, go on YouTube, find Danny.
Thank you.
Danny, thank you so much.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Okay,
Lisa.
I'm Lisa Alex. You've been listening to Danny Ferron, and It's Your Thing. Hope to see you. Hope to hear you. Hope you hear me soon. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.